Elon Musk's influence on the world is undeniable. But now, with his involvement in the US government efficiency reforms under Trump, the stakes have shifted. Musk is not just transforming private companies anymore. He's diving headfirst into public governance. This bold move has huge implications, not just for the United States, but for global politics and Canada. Could his role in reshaping the US government under the Department of Government Efficiency impact trade, technology, and even national security on a global scale? And how does this new power dynamic play out for Canada? In today's video, we are breaking down how Musk's growing influence in US government could reshape not just America, but Canada's future too. The birth of DOGE and Musk's new role. Let's start with the basics. Musk, who's known for running private companies with an eye on maximum efficiency and profitability, is now helping shape US government policies aimed at doing the same. He's been tapped to lead the newly formed Department of Government Efficiency, an initiative designed to streamline US government operations and make them more businesslike. On paper, this sounds like a good thing. Efficiency is something we all strive for, right? Fewer bureaucratic hurdles, more streamlined processes. But when you dig deeper, it's clear that Musk's approach to efficiency might not be as straightforward as it seems. Musk has built his career around optimizing every aspect of his company, from cutting costs to ensuring that resources are used as efficiently as possible. With DOGE, he's bringing this business mindset into the heart of the US government. And Trump's agenda of reducing the size of the government and privatizing various sectors perfectly aligns with Musk's own philosophy. What does that mean for the US and, more importantly, for the rest of the world? Well, it could mean a government more aligned with corporate interests, a government run like a business rather than a public service. This is where the real concerns start to emerge: impact on global trade and economics. One of the first areas that could see a shift is global trade. If Musk and his DOGE team are successful in making the US government run more efficiently, there is a real possibility that the US could become more competitive on the world stage. With the focus on cutting red tape, reducing inefficiencies, and possibly privatizing sectors, the US economy could grow stronger. For countries like Canada, which are deeply integrated into the US economy, the effects could be twofold. On the positive side, a more efficient US could mean more opportunities for Canadian companies. The Canadian economy might see an uptick in trade relations, especially if US businesses become more agile and in need of Canadian exports, whether that's energy resources, technology, or manufactured goods. However, there is a darker side to this all. What happens if privatization and deregulation in the US affect industries that overlap with Canada? For example, Musk's focus on cutting costs could push the US government to deregulate industries like technology, energy, and manufacturing, sectors where Canada and the US share deep ties. This could lead to heightened competition between the two countries, especially in areas like AI, energy, and even agriculture. Canadian tech companies might find themselves battling more aggressive US tech giants, while Canadian oil and gas might face competition if the US turns to domestic production after deregulating its energy sector. These are not small shifts. These are massive challenges that Canada will need to face head-on. Canadian sovereignty and policy adjustments. Another huge concern is the pressure that Musk's government reform could place on Canadian sovereignty and policies. if the US is pushing for privatization and corporate-run governance, there is a real risk that Canada could feel pressure to follow suit. We have seen this before. Whenever the US makes significant policy shifts, Canada is often right behind it, either adjusting its own policies or facing unintended consequences. Take healthcare, for example. In Canada, we pride ourselves on our universal healthcare. But what if Musk's privatization policies in the US create such success in certain sectors that there is a push for Canada to do the same? US corporate interests could start lobbying Canadian officials who consider a more private sector approach to healthcare or education, institutions that are traditionally public in Canada. Privatization might promise cost savings in the short term, but in the long run, it could lead to inequality and worsening access to services. The pressure from US corporate lobbyists and the push to compete could force Canada to re-evaluate its public services, and that's a slippery slope. Social safety nets might be jeopardized if Canadian policymakers feel compelled to mirror the US model in pursuit of efficiency. Before we move further, if you find this video helpful and want to support this channel, you can drop a super thanks below. It means a lot and help me keep making videos just like this one. Thanks so much for being part of the community. Now back to our topic. Next, let's talk about technology and the growing AI race. Musk has long been at the forefront of cutting-edge innovations. Between SpaceX, Tesla, and his neural tech initiatives, he is deeply invested in the future of high-tech industries. Under his leadership at DOGE, it is likely that the US government could take more business-oriented approach to technological development, prioritizing efficiency and technological advancements. Now, you might be thinking, what does this have to do with Canada? Well, Canada is home to a thriving tech industry, particularly in AI research. Cities like Montreal, Calgary, and Toronto are tech hubs, and Canadian companies are leading the charge in AI development. But if Musk's DOGE reforms push the US to accelerate its technological innovation, Canada could find itself playing catch-up. Canadian companies, which already face stiff competition from US tech giants, might now have to contend with a government-supported US tech boom that further sidelines smaller players in the Canadian market. Think of the AI and space tech sector. If Musk pushes for the privatization of space exploration, NASA could see more private sector involvement, and companies like SpaceX could dominate the landscape, potentially leaving Canada out of the equation for key contracts or projects. Environmental impact and global consequences. Another area that could be significantly affected is the environment. Musk has a strong commitment to sustainable technologies, but let's face it, his business philosophy is ultimately about making things work efficiently and profitably. If DOGE leads to corporate-led deregulation, there is a risk that environmental protection in the US could be rolled back in the name of efficiency and cost reduction. In the US, deregulation could mean looser environmental standards for energy, mining, and manufacturing. And that does not just affect the US, it impacts the entire continent. Canada shares many natural resources with the US in areas like energy production and forestry. And a move towards deregulation in the US could lead to environmental damage that cross borders. Think about the oil sands in Alberta, which could face increased pressure as the US reduces restrictions on fossil fuel extraction. This might mean that Canadian policymakers will be forced to make tough decisions on how to balance economic growth with environmental sustainability. If the US becomes more environmentally lax, Canada could face increased pressure from industries to relax its own environmental standards, leading to potential long-term damage for both countries. the future of US-Canada relations and global diplomacy. Finally, let's talk about the broader geopolitical implications. As Elon Musk continues to grow his influence in US politics, the lines between corporate power and government policy are blurring. This could create a new dynamic in US-Canada relations where private sector interests, led by people like Musk, play an outsized role in shaping policy decisions. Instead of the traditional diplomatic channels we are used to, corporate diplomacy could become more important. Canada might find itself negotiating not just with the US government, but with corporate titans who have a direct line to the White House. And that's a game changer. Canada's position will likely be tested as the US becomes more business-driven. We'll have to watch closely as these changes unfold and prepare for a future where economic alliances might come less from political interests and more from business interests. So, what does all this mean for Canada? The rise of corporate influence in government, led by Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency, could bring massive changes to the US economy, global trade, technology, and the environment. For Canada, the stakes are high. Whether it's in the tech sector, trade relations, or the environment, the impact of US government reforms could be profound. As Canadians, we need to stay alert. We must be prepared to adapt to a new global landscape where business interests and government powers are more intertwined than ever before. Let's make sure Canada does not just react to these changes, but takes proactive steps to safeguard its interests in the new world order. If you found this analysis valuable, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And share this video with anyone who needs to know what's at stake for Canada's future in the evolving global landscape. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.